It was sold as a fund to build a nation's future. Billions of dollars raised in the name of the Malaysian people.
But investigators say at least $4.5 billion simply vanished.
It bought a super yacht, diamonds, and even a Hollywood blockbuster. And it would put a sitting prime minister behind bars. This is the story of 1MDB. A quick note before we begin.
In 2009, Najib Razak became the Prime Minister of Malaysia. Almost immediately, he launched a bold new project. It was called One Malaysia Development Berhad. Most people just called it 1MDB. On paper, it was a sovereign wealth fund owned by the state. Its promise was simple and inspiring. It would attract foreign investment and build a better Malaysia. New power plants, new cities, jobs for ordinary families. Najib didn't just create the fund, he controlled it. He chaired its advisory board. And as finance minister, he held veto power over its biggest decisions.
On paper, every safeguard pointed back to one man.
The fund began borrowing money. A lot of money.
And almost from the start, something didn't add up.
To understand where the money went, you have to meet one man.
His name is Low Tak Jho. The world would come to know him as Jho Low.
He was a young Malaysian financier with extravagant taste. And here is the strange part.
He held no official position at 1MDB. None at all.
Yet investigators say he sat at the very center of everything.
Jho Low has always denied any wrongdoing. To this day, he has never stood trial.
The first move came in 2009. 1MDB announced a joint venture with a Saudi oil company called PetroSaudi. It sounded like exactly the kind of deal the fund was built for.
But according to the U.S. Department of Justice, it was a cover.
More than $1 billion left the fund.
It did not go to an oil venture.
It was wired to a Swiss bank account held by a company called Good Star.
Prosecutors say Good Star was controlled by Jho Low. The fund was only months old. The looting had already begun.
$1 billion was just the beginning. To raise far more, 1MDB turned to Wall Street, specifically to the investment bank Goldman Sachs. Between 2012 and 2013, Goldman arranged 3 giant bond sales. Together, they raised about $6.5 billion for the fund. Goldman earned hundreds of millions of dollars in fees.
Fees far larger than such deals would normally command.
But much of that borrowed money never reached Malaysia's projects. Instead, investigators traced it to a company in the Caribbean. It was called Aabar Investments, PJS Limited. The name was no accident. There was a real, respected Aabar tied to an Abu Dhabi state fund.
This one was a near-perfect imposter, a shell with almost the same name.
Roughly $1.3 billion poured into the fake Aabar.
More than 40% of the money raised in those bonds. Money meant to build a country was disappearing into shell companies.
In 2013, the scheme reached its boldest stage. More than $1 billion was funneled through a firm called Tanore, and some of it flowed somewhere extraordinary.
Around $681 million. It landed in the personal bank accounts of Prime Minister Najib Razak. Let that sink in. State money in a national leader's own account.
Najib has always insisted it was not stolen. He said it was a personal donation from the Saudi royal family, and that most of it was later returned.
Investigators and, eventually, the courts did not accept that story.
Meanwhile, the spending was almost cartoonish in scale.
A $250 million superyacht, named the Equanimity.
Penthouses in New York. Mansions in London and Los Angeles. Picasso and Basquiat paintings, traded like party favors.
A giant heart-shaped diamond gifted to a supermodel.
High roller nights in the casinos of Las Vegas. And then, the most surreal twist of all.
Around $100 million helped finance a Hollywood film. The movie was The Wolf of Wall Street, a film about financial crime, allegedly funded by financial crime. Stolen public money was buying yachts, diamonds, and red carpets.
A scheme this large leaves a trail, and trails get found.
In 2015, the dam broke.
A journalist named Clare Rewcastle Brown began publishing leaked documents. Her site, the Sarawak Report, traced money straight to Jho Low's circle.
Then the Wall Street Journal dropped a bombshell.
Hundreds of millions of dollars sitting in the Prime Minister's accounts. Story exploded across the world.
Najib's response was to tighten his grip.
The Attorney General investigating him was replaced. His own Deputy Prime Minister, who asked questions, was removed.
Domestic investigations were quietly shut down. New Attorney General soon cleared him of wrongdoing. For a moment, it looked like the story might simply be buried.
But the money had crossed too many borders to hide. In the United States, the Department of Justice was watching.
It called one MDB the largest kleptocracy case it had ever pursued.
Inside Malaysia, public anger was building. In May 2018, the country went to the polls.
Najib's coalition lost. It was the first time the opposition had won in 61 years. The protection of high office was suddenly gone.
Police raided properties linked to Najib.
They hauled away cash, jewelry, and hundreds of luxury handbags and watches.
Around the world, the assets were being clawed back. The superyacht Equanimity was seized and later sold for $126 million. Goldman Sachs faced a reckoning too.
In 2020, the bank admitted its role in a foreign bribery scheme. It agreed to pay more than $2.9 billion to global authorities.
And Najib Razak himself went on trial.
In 2020, he was convicted in a related case tied to a 1MDB unit. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison. After appeals failed, he began serving that sentence in 2022.
Then, in December 2025, came the biggest verdict of all.
A court found him guilty of abuse of power and money laundering.
The charges covered more than $700 million.
He was sentenced to 15 more years and billions in fines and asset recovery.
Najib's lawyers say the verdict is wrong, and they are appealing.
So much money was recovered, but so much is still missing.
And the man investigators call the mastermind?
Jho Low remains a fugitive, charged in 2 countries. He has never been tried, and he denies all wrongdoing.
As of 2025, he was reported to be living in China. 1MDB was supposed to build a nation.
Instead, it became one of the largest financial frauds in history. The lesson is as old as money itself. When the people guarding the vault answer to no one, the vault empties.
On the fraud terrain, we follow the money, and we expose the fraud. If this story gripped you, subscribe. Tell us which case we should uncover next.